Without clarity, you cannot focus. Without focus, you cannot execute. If you don't execute, you don't win. Give me some examples of where you were able to take a business and assist them in cutting out the noise, seeing through some of the blind spots, and getting extreme level of clarity on the direction that they're headed.
The best time to plant an oak tree was unfortunately 20 years ago, but
Yeah.
the very next best day is today. And I say that with like as much sincerity and encouragement as I can. Ultimately, it starts to give you that time freedom back, those things that you probably started the company, or the why behind starting a company, and the blood, sweat, and tears that you invested to date, sell or shut down.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people probably know another business owner that just shut things down, that kind of wound down and stopped taking clients. That's not a neutral outlook that anybody should be considering. It's not neutral. It costs
Right.
money, it's hard on your team, and it's one of those decisions that statistically business owners regret the most.
I feel like I'm specifically distracting business owners who have notoriously been fully in the trenches, way too involved in their business, not looking forward and so forth. But the one thing I've been able to distract them with has been getting them trained up on using AI.
The reason I'm making a big investment in trade related businesses on the acquisition front is because they're going to realize an outsized benefit from AI.
Welcome to the podcast, everybody. I'm Jennifer Bagley, your host. Thank you for joining the Catalyst for the Trades. Whether you're joining us live or watching the recording later, we're very excited to have a special guest with us today. David, help me pronounce your last name so I don't butcher
Hori.
it.
Yeah.
Hori,
Hori.
good to have you. So, David is with Top Line Operators. Tell me a little bit about your business, and then we'll dive into how you got here.
Absolutely. So top line operators exist primarily to buy businesses with a focus on trade related businesses. Now, I do work with a couple of specific business owners on the side as a coach, but the primary focus, the North Star, is acquiring businesses.
Yeah, tell me how you got here.
So I came from big corporate and found it to be slow and not particularly innovative. And so then I found my way to tech startups, where I was blessed to partner with three different founders who we grew the business together, and ultimately exited to the likes of Qualtrics in the software space,
Mm-hmm.
Opendoor in the construction space, and then ultimately Toyota in the automotive space. And coming out of that third exit, I realized that, wow, I think I've learned all the ways not to do things. And I think I could apply that to my own business, which led me into the realm of business acquisition.
Yeah, talk to me about that. What do you feel like were the biggest lessons out of those?
I mean, the importance of brand, aligning people around the North Star, and then ultimately um, focus. I think that's a place that derails a lot of founders, a lot of business owners. And focus is so rare these days, given that many companies are started by these visionaries that can see all the potential, all the possibilities, and really giving your team the gift of clarity, the gift of alignment on a singular goal is tremendously powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I was blessed with one of the most amazing coaches. My business coach has been for 20 years. Tony Jerry is a coach to the top
Mhm.
500 CEOs in the world. And um, he had a model that has been my North Star, which is simply clarity. Without clarity, you cannot focus. Without focus, you cannot execute. If you don't execute, you don't win. So, clarity,
Mm.
focus, and execution in every single step and everything that we do. And I think I think clarity is, even that is not clear,
Yeah.
like what hyper clarity is. So give me some examples of where you were able to take a business and assist them in cutting out the noise, seeing through some of the blind spots, and getting extreme level of clarity on the direction that they're headed.
Yeah, I'll just pick a client from the last couple of months. We're only probably 2 months into the engagement, and he owns a shooting range and gun retail store in the Detroit metropolitan area. And so, in looking at his business, at first I was kind of like thinking around, how do we grow this? How do we What is his unique value proposition? And in digging into the business, we realized you're not really a gun store and you're not really a shooting range, not one that we can grow in a really meaningful way. But what he did have buried in the archives was this rich history of training, especially institutional security forces. And
Mm.
so right away, we've pivoted into this space of, okay, you are no longer a gun store or a shooting range, you are a training company, and putting all of our effort, our resources, our marketing behind that new identity. And there's so many things to love about that, including reoccurring revenue and not being bound by that physical footprint of his brick and mortar, that is allowing his team greater clarity and focus, and also just opening up. His words were, people are showing up out of the blue to give me money. And I think that's what happens
Nice.
once people know what you are actually, and once you know what you are.
Yeah, nice. How was he able to expand past the brick and mortar?
So, I mean, when you're trying to sell memberships to like a shooting range, for instance, you're kind of person that's coming off the street is looking to maybe get in some range time after work, so evenings, weekends, those kinds of things, and he only has a limited number of lanes
Else.
that he can sell
Mhm.
memberships to. Who wants to train during the day was kind of the first questions that cracked this egg. And I was like, whoa, these institutional clients that are bringing in their security team for onboarding, for semi-monthly retesting and recertification, those kinds of things. They come in Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Oh, great. Well, then, like, do we always train on site? The answer is no. And there's virtual trainings and all these other things that we can do to again um, take that limiting aspect of the business and explore other areas that aren't constrained like that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Sometimes the answer is this close.
Yeah,
Literally sitting right here.
truly. Yeah, it
But you
was
need
kind of like a
another set of
happenstance
eyes.
conversation too. You know, he was talking about how one of his clients recently went through a merger with another hospital company. I was like, wait. Have you figured out who your new contact is? He's like, no, I mean, hopefully it all works out, you know. And then we start peeling it back. And it's like, wow, you already do this for multiple hospital sites across the state. What else do you do? You know, and so it's like almost like we'd missed it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's phenomenal. What else? Give me another example. What other kind of trades?
Yeah, so I'm working right now with a company that's in the restoration space. And so one of the things that, you know, this is pretty early on still, but I, you know, initially I said, is there any part of the company that you're willing to shut down or sell right off the bat? Because again, to your point, it all starts with clarity and focus. And
Mhm.
restoration is tremendously challenging given that you're dealing with insurance, and there's an entire spectrum within just that kind of subheading of restoration, where there's the mitigation side of things, there's contents cleaning, there's then the actual reconstruction piece of it. And so, you know, what would it look like if we just got rid of the reconstruction side? We don't even mess with rebuilding it. We just get the
Get
actual
it clean.
water or fire damage mitigated and get really good at that. Or maybe it's just the contents cleaning piece of it. And one of the things that, you know, I think is kind of exciting, we'll double click on the contents aspect of it, is that every restoration company kind of has to offer it, but nobody wants to, and nobody's
Mhm.
done a really good job in it. Where you take somebody's, you know, couch and furniture and all that stuff that smells like smoke, you clean it, you store it until the project's done, and then you put it back exactly where it was. Well,
Mm.
he's really good at that piece of it. How do we go in and attract business from his competitors, other restoration companies that don't really want to figure it out, don't want to hassle with it, without them feeling bad about sending him business? What if we made a co-op so
Yeah.
that they share in the revenue and share in the profit? They pay, you know, some kind of monthly fee to be a part of the co-op, but then we're rev sharing. Like, so there's different ways to approach problems that create opportunities for all involved.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Get creative. That's fantastic. Plus, on top of that, that's collaborative marketing is, I mean, essentially in the home services industry, like somebody owns a network of homes. All you need to do is know who they are and collaborate with them.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
You do it better than most.
Try. Fantastic. Fantastic. What else? Give me another example. I think these are great tactical examples for real businesses. I've got two restoration companies that are in the middle of web builds right now. So
Mm.
I think these are great. What else?
Yeah, so one of the things that I hear often from business owners, specifically in the trades, is that talent is a challenge, right?
Hmm.
Either that nobody wants to work as hard as people used to, or they can't find the right people. You know, all those kinds of challenges, and they're real
I have
challenges.
I have a half a dozen text messages from clients that are urgently trying. Their rankings are up, traffic's up, and they're in their new problem, which is how do I hire? So
And you're right, the bottleneck shifts constantly. You know, as soon as you solve one thing, you know, especially leads, then all of a sudden it's delivery or whatever it is. The bottleneck's always moving. And if you can anticipate where that's going to be, that's going to save you a lot of hassle. And one of the things that I tend to start with in the trades is looking at, are you an employer of choice? Pro.com, which is the VC funded GC that I helped scale, did a really good job of this, where we were an employer of choice and we were very clear on what we could and couldn't offer. And a lot of business owners think it comes down to compensation, like, oh, there's always a bigger guy that's going to give them more money. But we were
mhm.
able to negotiate, you know, high level construction leadership to take six-figure pay cuts because we understood what we could offer and what we were uniquely positioned to enable them to do and realize in their own goals and tell that story. And all we had to do was get in front of them, and then we could you know, have them relocate, take pay cuts because now they were aligned with a mission or they were aligned with a goal of their own, and they could see how this was advancing that, and they were willing to make financial trade-offs often in order to do that.
So, as you've gone through these exits, how have you, as well as the organizations, including the staff, in the plans? Do you wait until the end, or are you trying to bring them along that journey? Tell me about that. I know a lot of companies really stress about trying to keep the closed door environment when the business owner has an interest in bringing the business to market. Is that your advice, or have you seen it go both ways?
I've seen it go both ways. My advice is to default to as much transparency as you can. Although in an exit scenario, that's not the time to start being transparent suddenly. You know,
Right.
you need to be kind of consistent with how you've managed your company to date. And I always find there's opportunities to increase transparency and include your team in kind of the opportunities that are potentially emerging for your business and also the challenges. I think many business owners feel this need or desire to shelter their team from bad news, good news, all of it, and shoulder it themselves. And that just leads to suboptimal outcomes. You hired great people, hopefully, that are going to have a lot better ideas than you about how to roll these things out, what's important, and all those things. So I default to greater transparency as a rule. Again, if you're selling, that's not the moment to suddenly rip back the curtain and bring everybody into the fold, but to the degree that you can embrace that, I actually helped with a massive M&A transaction, at least massive for me. It was a 500 person company bringing in an 1,100 person carve out. So it was really kind of this minnow swallowing a whale.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job of creating a plan and transparency wherever they could. And I think that that led to an abnormally high retention rate for everybody that they did ultimately acquire, in the 98% range of people coming over and being retained. So transparency pays off if you can do it right.
What does that look like? Give me an example. How far in advance of a potential exit? At what point do you recommend bringing your team on board? How does that roll out?
Sure. So again, we were the acquiring entity, so it really wasn't up to us when that information was released to the people being most impacted. But internally, we included as many people as we realistically could. And so that looked like we identified internally, you know, for instance, who are the people that lead the company, you know, mission? Who are our culture champions? And we dubbed them culture ambassadors. And you know, we could leave it a little bit high level and ambiguous in that, like, hey, we're making some big investments in growth, and we want to ensure that people that as they enter into the company, they're paired with somebody that already knows the company, they know who's who in the zoo, and can act as that connective tissue to the organization. And we trained them and invested in them in anticipation of this major acquisition going through. And, worst case scenario, we have a bunch of people that we can, kind of rotate into, normal onboarding. So that was one thing. Another was that we went around site to site across the nation and recorded welcome videos from all the key leaders uh, that highlighted kind of different things that the business did and gave them friendly, like real names and faces of the leaders. And we had that queued up so that when they received the news, like, oh, we're being acquired, um, and the inevitable questions start, tumbling in, right away we're able to position that organization as one that's focused on growth. Here's what that growth enables. Here's who you're going to be working with, which I think is something that's missed in so many of those kinds of transactions.
Yeah, I agree with that. Early on in the conversation, you were talking about brand, and I think that um, I don't think a lot of company owners have complete clarity around brand to the nth degree. I think that they wrap themselves around a brand color and a mascot and these design elements that
Mhm.
somehow have a sense of, I don't know, pride, I guess. They feel good. Like I got dressed up today.
It
Um,
resonates with them personally too.
yes. So I know brand from your vantage point is a lot deeper than that. Tell me a little bit about, the layers and kind of how you incorporate that within an organization.
Yeah, I tend to work with people that know a lot more about marketing and brand than I do. It's certainly not something I'm an expert in. But one of the things, again, it starts with a vision. Like, what do we want the experience to be? I'm very focused. I had a previous career in hospitality,
Mhm.
and hearts are won by micro experiences across a client or customer journey. And so what experience do we want them to have? What does it feel like to have one of our techs show up in your home? Or how do we want them to feel after they get off the phone with us when we do have an intake call? All of those things can come back to that vision. And then, all right, now what assets support that narrative?
Yeah.
And you can delve deeply into the colors of trust or whatever it is, reliability and images. But starting with that, again, what do we want them to feel? And if we want anybody to make a transaction financially, they have to feel something first.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. So I actually just wrote an article. I don't know if it went live yet. I just deployed it this morning, but I just wrote an article on jenniferbagley.com, which is more about, I use that site to primarily put out my personal opinions.
Mm,
And the entire article was about giving before asking, essentially. And it's how we approach the digital side is understanding the different buyer personas, understanding it's very different talking to a house dad versus an engineer dad. These are very different, kind of personas, and they go through a different process. And we can evaluate that process by monitoring how they query, how they prompt, the questions they ask, the objections, the pain points, all of these little indicators as they're going through. This is way before they find the solution, which is your business. But those indicators that happen on how they use AI, how they use Google search, how they use AI overviews, and those queries matter because you start to build this kind of guide to understand the consumer. And it's interesting, the majority of websites, when you go there, just from my context, in the trades, it sounds like this. It's like, here's my company, here's my services, here's my promotions, here's my before and afters, here's here's my contact information. Please contact us. And once you start to understand how to create these buyer personas and build a brand and give first, you have a client first approach to design. It's very different. It sounds more like the conversation you would have if you walked into their home. I wouldn't go into their home in my fancy dancy thing with my mascot and just start blabbing about all my stuff and my services, right? I would literally walk into a home and go, I know you guys contacted us for this, but tell me about what's going on. What else do you have going on in your home? How can I help you?
mhm.
Right. And that's the more information you understand about the company out of the gate. A lot of marketing agencies will track performance at the page level. Like, did they land on a blog post or did they land on a service page? when we're trying to measure what made the consumer convert, we're going all the way down to the component that made them convert.
Mhm.
Was this somebody who wanted to right size a system before they contacted somebody, or figure out what pricing was, or figure out what a heat load calculator was, or whatever component is going to identify and help that client. But I think that's an important part. What you said was understanding the journey
Mhm.
and creating a feeling that resonates with what they need. And
Mhm.
that's not, hawking your wares and tears at a flea market. It's not
Right.
my. It's really tell me what's going on with you. So
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's smart.
I hope your listeners too know how unique it is to have a marketing expert like you that is willing to look at the root of things. I think I've only ever encountered it one other time, and I actually worked with her for a lot of the research we did related to business acquisitions. It's not, like again to your point, like getting in front of business owners and saying, "Do you want to sell? Do you want to sell?" Like, hey, I've helped exit 3 business. Like they don't care about me at all
Right.
until I understand what their needs are, what's keeping them up at night. And we got really rich insight because they tested every single aspect. And they're like, your demographic is probably, retiring business owner and plateaued business owner. And
Yep.
they have two different journeys that they're going through. And one like is really worried about abandoning their team. Like, is my team going to feel like I pulled the carpet out from it? Like those are some really rich insights that give you a lot deeper empathy as I start thinking about a brand and other things.
Yeah, you're right. I was just thinking about the restoration data that came back. Like most of the restoration people are distraught. Like
Mhm.
family pictures are gone, money's gone, they can't find their passport. I mean, that's insurance and all those technical things. And on top of that, you have a consumer who's totally distraught. How do you connect with that online?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's huge.
For
So, what were
oh,
you gonna say?
well, for just like the 101 basic training for the restoration people answering the phones here, like our goal was just like, does this person feel better after hanging up with us? That's our goal.
Yeah,
Like there's a couple of data points we want to collect, but we're measuring it as like, do they feel better or worse after talking to us? And it's really through that connection of like hearing, like, gosh, that sounds really hard
empathy.
because they are calling us on the worst day of their year, probably.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So you started to broach on what kind of companies you guys work with that are interested in exiting. I think there's a lot of smaller companies that I I definitely resonate with the fact that they're scared. They want to protect their team. This has been their baby, their family. This has been their everything for a long time. But I also know, like, I don't think the average person that goes into entrepreneurship, A, knows how hard it is, and B, at some point when they decided they were going to start their business, the real goal was three things. They wanted more time, more money, and more freedom. And that is not always what a business actually gets you. I shouldn't even say always. Rarely is that
Rarely.
what a business gets you unless you decide to exit and do it again, right? There's not a
Yeah.
lot of instances where that's the reality. Normally, it's just a much more demanding job with a lot more liability, and a lot of love and everything else that goes into it. But there ain't no joke in being an entrepreneur. It's not for the weak at heart. So, what's the balance? Kind of, what do you feel like the stage is that they're in when they need to start planning? What does that feel like for them?
You can't start soon enough. The best time to plant an oak tree was unfortunately 20 years ago, but
Yeah,
the very next best day is today. And I say that with like as much sincerity and encouragement as I can, because even if you don't plan to sell, building your company to sell, to your point, is going to give you, first of all, optionality. Second of all, it's going to
structure.
be more likely to weather economic downturns and supply chain issues and all those things. Is going to be a lot more durable. And then ultimately it starts to give you that time freedom back, those things that you probably started the company, or the why behind starting a company, and the blood, sweat, and tears that you invested to date. And then ultimately, many owners don't think in these terms, but there's only two outcomes for every business: you sell or shut down.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people probably know another business owner that just shut things down, that kind of wound down and stopped taking clients. That's not a neutral outlook that anybody should be considering. It's not neutral. It costs
Right.
money, it's hard on your team, and it's one of those decisions that statistically business owners regret the most and
Yeah.
aren't financially positioned to weather. This is their retirement often, is their company selling and selling well. So there's a lot of different things to kind of unpack there.
So I don't want to go down a negative route, but I do want to throw out some warnings. There's a lot of different options for people to exit in the trades. What are some of the things they should be cautious of?
I'll highlight a couple of things. Also, I was talking to so many business owners about buying their business and having the same talk track over and over again because business owners become an expert in running their business, not selling it. I
Yeah,
actually do a free weekly webinar for business owners. That's just like the what to expect 101 when selling your business,
I
who you're
love
going to
that.
talk to, like different kinds of buyers, all those things. So, if that's helpful to anybody, I'm happy to send you the link. But
But
couple things.
tell me the link or put it in chat, and then Crystal will drop it up there for everybody as well if you have a minute.
Perfect. I will drop that in. Um, so couple things is, obviously do it before you need to. That's the biggest mistake I see business owners make is they decide to sell when they have to. The partner is like, partnership's dissolving, or you're going through a divorce, or you suddenly are no longer able to work to the level that you were because of a disease or something like that. So doing it on your own terms, again, starting today is the one piece of advice I want everybody to hear. Second, though, you probably need a few years in order to get things in place to sell well. And so, again, starting today is advantageous for that in that regard. And there's a lot of people that you can engage that address every aspect of how to sell your business. One of those is an exit planner, right? And they're just going to give you the roadmap for here's the couple of 2, 3 things that you should be thinking to put in place before selling that's going to really increase your value in the eyes of potential buyers and also again de-risk your business, which is ultimately what speaks to buyers. Buyers don't look at your business, they don't look at your customers as much as they look at risk and can I repeat what you're doing. And so
Right.
there's some things that are pretty easy. I even do I call it a durability diagnostic that's built around those 4 pillars: is the degree that the business relies exclusively on the owner, the financial predictability of your business, the degree that your SOPs are documented, your systems, processes, all that, and then just concentration. Do you have a giant customer that accounts for more than 15, 20% of your revenue? Or does all of your, does your GM, are they irreplaceable because they've been with you for 20 years and everything runs through their head? Those kinds of concentrations.
Yeah, or the owner that's still full knee deep, all in the business,
Yeah.
hasn't let go.
Yeah. Works 15 to 20 hours, but everything funnels through them.
Do
Yep.
not be the roadblock. Get out of the
Yeah.
way.
Indeed. Indeed.
Focus on replacing yourself as fast as possible.
Yeah. I'm making
It's
that a hard and fast requirement now for owners that I work with is to hire an admin first. It's something that
Yeah,
continually, like every founder I worked with hired way too late. And it's easy to kick the can down the road. It's never the right time to train somebody and things, but it's such an important investment that gets you out of the weeds and into a place where you have the time and space to really build your company thoughtfully.
yeah. I had a gentleman I wanna say it was like a week ago, and he was like, "Why don't you have any answers to questions?" I was like, "My job is to know where we're going. I have a whole team that knows what we're doing." Like,
Yep.
that is not my job
Yep.
by
Ah,
any
that's such
means.
a great answer. I love that.
So, yeah, I can tell you where we're gonna be in the next 3 years. That's my job. I
Yeah.
paint that path, and that's my highway to pave. Yeah, absolutely. You gotta get out of your own way. There's no brownie points for you having all the answers.
No, no.
Like,
It feels good, but
it
there's no
feels
brownie
good.
points.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree. So, your roadmap, let's break it down. We've got some time. Are you down to go through each of the 4 pillars?
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right, let's dive in. We're
So the
adding as
roadmap,
much value in this webinar as we possibly can. This
yeah,
podcast is gonna be watched by many.
absolutely. So this roadmap, basically we sit down for 90 minutes and I get some high level information about every company that I work with. And there's some questions that give me context, and then there's really, I think it's 40 questions that are scored that give us indicators kind of on where in the spectrum are you in related to, again, those four pillars. And so, for instance, if we're looking at, the owner dependence, how many of the last, five sales, was the owner directly involved in? There's a spectrum, right? How many, if you were abducted by aliens and unable to communicate with your company for 90 days, how long before revenue's impacted, right? Those kinds of questions, there's a spectrum, and where you fall on that kind of indicates what your score is going to be. And then certain questions are going to be more indicative of something that could be fatal versus like, yeah, you should probably get around to fixing that and putting something in place to mitigate that risk. And so, what you get then is a roadmap of things that are going to be critically important. I try to list either one, maybe two critical things that are like, if you don't take care of this and something goes south, you're dead in the water.
Mhm.
Versus here's the opportunities and things kind of more long term that you should be on your radar. But again, it's prioritized roadmap, not just a roadmap of all the things that you could do. Which again, specificity, focus, what's first, sequencing, those are what's really valuable anytime you're talking about significantly scaling a business.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been odd. I don't know if I want to put this out there, but I've been Stephanie Allen, which is a client, as well as a strategic partner, and she's a co-founder of a platform called Just Start AI. And it's very interesting. Her and I were talking, and I was like, I feel like I'm specifically distracting business owners who have notoriously been fully in the trenches, way too involved in their business, not looking forward and so forth. But the one thing I've been able to distract them with has been getting them trained up on using AI. Because once they do, it's been really interesting. Those who have been so ingrained in every piece of their business operations are able to pull out of the ops, start
Mhm.
analyzing all of the data. I mean, they've got, multiple PhDs, if not doctoral degrees, sitting directly in their pocket. They start analyzing their business different, looking at things from the outside in. It's interesting that those same business owners used to be the guy or the gal that would show up on a meeting with our marketing agency, and they would sit with the account manager and we'd have to read the reports to them, and we just spent an hour reading something they could read
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah,
And
literally.
now it's like, I don't want to, if we're going to get on a call, A, you're going to pay for it. So you show up. And then B, I want you to have already analyzed your reports. I want you to come to the table, let AI give you some ideas on how we can increase or improve performance. It's going to ask you to do a little bit of work, and I want you to show up with it done so we can execute. We'll spend the hour talking about how we're going to implement this next thing, whether it's custom content on projects that you guys have worked on, solutions, perspectives from all of the people in your organization, the client, or whether it's a custom component that automates a workflow or improves
Mm,
operational or improves sales. Like, let's build. If we're going to spend time together, let's build something. So I need you to have that idea in advance. And they're like, right? You want me to do what? But I've now got contractors. I wound up, I don't know if I have any. I wound up buying these stickers that say blue collar by day, AI engineer by night, which has been really freaking cool.
yeah.
So we don't tell them what we're doing. We just tell them like, this is going to be very valuable. But what it's done for them has been incredible. Like,
I can imagine.
and it's incredible. These guys are literally coming up with ideas. I've got trades business owners that have built their own ERP systems, their own field management systems, their own sales tools, their own pricing tools, their own proposal systems, and literally leveling up. They're starting to see all of the components and holes throughout their entire business that they've seen as broken for a million years and now have the opportunity to go fix. But it's also, on the side note, got them out of ops,
Mhm. Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
working.
It's so powerful, so
Yeah.
powerful. And one of the baby steps that usually owners have to start with is, when somebody comes to you with a problem or question, just turning that back around on them and saying, what do you suggest? What have you tried? Now it's shifting, with AI to like, have you asked Claude, or whatever your AI of
Your
choice is.
tool, whatever your tool is,
Um,
yeah.
Absolutely, and you can do some incredible things. And to your point, the reason I'm making a big investment in trade related businesses on the acquisition front is because they're going to realize an outsized benefit from AI. They're going to there's just been so underserved and overlooked that anybody that is an early adopter and doing it well, not just spraying and praying AI all over their company, but like being really decisive. One of my partners is a well driller, and it
Mhm.
started with, I have an idea that saves guys time in the field with this app. I was like, cool, like we could probably
Prototyping it.
come up with something overnight to validate that. And now
Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, there's something here. And like he's probably going to go on and sell it, and then it led to a custom CRM instead of Service Titan, right? Like these things that can now exist because Service Titan, or any CRM for that matter, is okay for a lot of trades, especially if you're an HVAC or electrician, but not a well driller. So
right.
it's just tremendous opportunities with AI.
It's so exciting. I feel like I could go back if I like reeled back to 10 years ago. I feel like all our problems used to be so basic. Like I can't get them to read the reports. I can't get them to do their onboarding. I can't get them to send in assets. I can't get them to show up for a strategy meeting. I can't get this done without you. All of those problems gone.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
our ability to execute, their ability to execute. Yeah, that's interesting. What are your thoughts on AI? The trades is interesting. I feel like we were so advanced. We were way ahead of the curve, and we were talking about, we've been developing and building agentic environments and technology for now 4 years. And I think
Wow.
the first 3 years we started building, it was like we were just getting our, excuse my French, but ass handed to us from the industry that's like, this is hokey and this isn't real and AI slop and all of this stuff. And now they're, slowly coming around and realize they probably should have started earlier. But we also have, all of these contractors that they jumped on board. Like they could see it coming and they came with us. So it was almost like anytime a marketing agency would be throwing shade at us, I'm like, you're literally sending your clients to my sales team's booking calendar. I'm watching them transfer. So trades are getting really, really freaking smart. And in a lot of instances, they're significantly ahead of many industries now because of AI. They're
Mhm.
diving in faster, they're adopting faster, and so forth. What have you seen, and what do you think the advantages are of getting in and getting ahead early?
Yeah, I think people that are experiencing the greatest success holistically, not just broad adoption, but actual meaningful leverage with AI, starts with small incremental needs, right?
Yeah.
Again, my buddy Matt, the well driller, like he started with a very specific thing and then started finding like what else could he do, and somebody else that's done this at a very high level, my friend Brandon, he started with this outreach. He does the coatings for garage floors, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so
I love
he
those. That's
what?
very addictive. On a side note, watching y'all coat garage floors is wildly satisfying on
Just
social media.
sanding it out, those little boots with the spikes. Like, yes, I agree. I don't
It's
want to
in my
know how much time I've watched that.
yeah, don't question why we're attached to it. Just keep putting content out.
Agreed. Agreed. But his company, started with people that, an overseas team that was going through and pulling lists of based on like specific criteria around neighborhoods that might most likely be interested in those kinds of finishings. And it started with a tiny piece of automation, right? Like how could we just pull that data from the web scrapings and put it into our CRM? Okay, now we have that. Could
Right.
we pull that, like go and scrape those addresses, like, against Zillow or whatever it is, and get photos of those actual home fronts? Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, it turns out we can. To the point where he ended was unrecognizable, and that he was generating these postcards at scale that had a picture of your house with your name on it, going out and getting delivered to you with a custom QR code where he'd recorded a video that was that uses your name, right? Like, they use AI to just say, like, change their first name to Jennifer, David. You're probably
Mhm.
wondering why there's a postcard with your house on it, right? And he didn't start with that as the end goal necessarily, though. He just kept finding little places to incrementally automate and use AI. Versus, I have a friend who owns multiple businesses who he just found something as simple as my audience resonates with carousels. I'm going to build an entire AI automation so I never have to be involved. Well, guess how many carousels he shipped?
Mm,
He wants to be
interesting.
uninvolved. He wants to do a scrape and find topics, validate it, like all this stuff. Just start shipping carousels and then find a piece of it that
Yeah.
you can give to AI. That's my advice, kind of distilled down in a way.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, I talk to a lot of companies that are on the private equity side, independent investors, and so forth. What do you feel like the biggest differences are about how you go about it? What the relationship looks like, when they're working with you?
So I'm very legacy focused. And, I kind of people call me anti-private equity. I'm not private equity, anti-private equity, but I tend to be on the other end of the spectrum from how and why they exist. In that their model is mostly around buying businesses that are similar, bundling them together and selling them upstream to a bigger fish. And
Mhm.
you can make a lot of money doing that. And I'm in this because I love building. I'm a builder at heart. And I again love creating great experiences for people, great
Mm.
experiences for employees, for customers, those kinds of things. And so people that really care about legacy tend to resonate with my message and approach because I don't want to overhaul it overnight. I'm not looking to recognize massive cost savings from day one. If I buy right, I have time to understand the current state of things and why things exist before I start to implement any kind of changes. And it's just a longer tail process. And again, to put me kind of in opposition to private equity is I'm a more of a buy and hold, right? Where they just want to turn and burn and sell it to somebody
Yeah.
else before the problems actually are theirs. I'm here to grow, and I want a portfolio of businesses that creates meaningful job opportunities for my employees and meaningfully contributes to the communities that they're in.
Interesting. I love that. I don't think I've had anybody like you on the call before.
I think there needs to be more. I mean,
I do
the latest
too.
study from McKinsey Institute is that 97% of business transactions are closures and only 3% are selling. And if those are going to private equity, like that's the least sustainable model I could probably conjure up in my mind
Mhm.
of bundling them together, cutting, haphazardly, and then shipping it to somebody else, and they probably shut it down at some point, right? So,
I see it all the
um,
time.
yeah,
I probably can count hundreds of our own clients who have been acquired, and next thing you know, their website's being shut down, their phones stop ringing, the owner's gone, and we're getting a call saying, I don't know what just happened, but everything. I'm not saying they're all like that,
right.
but I'm
Private
definitely.
equity is a great buyer for many companies. It's not,
Yeah,
it shouldn't be your first and only suitor though, or your
yeah.
your target buyer. And those owners, they still have to knock elbows a lot of times with those customers. They're like, "What happened? We knew what to expect with you, and you sold out. You left us high and dry." And the employees, same thing. It's like, "What happened? You sold us this vision. You cashed out. We're still here. Like, what happened?" And so, if
Mm.
those are concerns, there's a lot of other alternatives to private equity.
What size companies do you typically work with?
I work with companies that are doing at least a million in revenue, usually
Mhm,
1 to 3. The On the coaching side, it's people that haven't really broken through that $3 million kind of revenue threshold.
mhm.
And then on the acquisition side, they're usually doing less than 13 million in revenue.
Okay. And what kind of relationship do you typically have with the owners? Um, you have different varying levels of investment, or you typically come in as majority? How's it usually work?
My approach is very bespoke. And in fact, a lot of my clients came from owners that I had an exploratory call with about an acquisition. And they
Hmm.
didn't realize that Many, I think people as imagine when they own a business and they think about selling like the full sale, the full exit, right? But there's such a spectrum of potential outcomes, including partnerships, which is very underutilized, where, gosh, there's a reason why you want to sell. It's because you're wearing 7 or 8 hats. What if you took off 6 of the ones that you hate and just got to focus on the one that you enjoy, that you probably got into this business for originally? Would that be interesting? Would you like to continue to work? That's an option, right? Like those
Hmm.
kinds of things. The answer is it depends. And so I advise and work with and have partnerships with people across the spectrum, whether let's bring me in as a partner and I'll take on the day to day and you focus on X versus a full outright acquisition versus, hey, I don't think that selling's in your best interest. All the hard yards are behind you. Sounds like you just need the right playbook. And so if you want to work with me as a coach, we'll get you to that threshold where you can sell where you need to or want to. So
Yeah.
all of those things are on the table.
And what are some of the assets you bring to the table as far as a team? So are you able to help them if they're not strong on the finance side? Do you bring in marketing systems, ops? Where do you feel like you have the most value to be able to bring to the table for these guys that might be struggling with one area of their business, but they still love their business and they're all in? They don't want fully out.
Yeah, for me, partnerships has been the path. I thought about going the path of having a big team, but I actually have kind of pivoted since starting top line ops just in the last 3 years into defined partnerships where they're the subject matter expert and they're going to be somebody that I introduce or introduce into the deal or could just connect directly if I don't need to be involved.
Mhm.
So things like that is marketing. Others is going to be around
We can help you with
finances.
that.
But yeah, absolutely. And that's the fun of these conversations is I get to meet new people and understand how they think and has exposed so many different opportunities and thought leaders that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So absolutely, I would love that.
Mm.
Um,
I
so
I think
my
that's important because 'cause you're putting together the right board. I I would rather have a boardroom table of all the best players, and you can't be the best if you do everything. It's not
100%,
possible.
100%, and I can't and wouldn't want to carry that payroll either. Like I
Right.
see people that try to have that one-stop solution and every opportunity needs to be theirs. And it's so freeing for me to say, you actually probably don't need to sell. Why don't you just talk to my friend Michael, who can help you with your exact need, and I don't need to be involved. If you want help, let's look at that. But just talk to Michael. He can help you. He's the best.
Yes.
And I'm not paying him to be on my payroll.
Right.
And we can
Right.
still both benefit from that too. So
Right.
yeah,
You can scale up,
partnerships are
scale
the path.
down, scale out. I mean, just marketing on its own, like, you need an army. You need, like, 10% of 10 people that are highly skilled at various
Mhm.
different things. You don't need 100% generalist. That's the worst scenario you could get into.
Agreed. Agreed. And even like getting into like, kind of more highly tactical things, I'm an expert in people, systems, and process and kind of bringing those three things together to bear on business problems. But again, I told you one of the first things that I suggest to business owners is you need an admin. Well, I could go find you an admin, but I'm not going to be the best person to do that. And I could train your team to do it, but I just have a partner. That's all they do. And they do it really well. And they validate their skill set. They have a playbook that they play. They support that admin after you hire them. So talk to JP, like, cause he's the best. And he's the best I've found in, like across the hundreds of hires that I've done personally.
Yeah.
I can't even be as good as he is. So
I've got a client of ours, Stephanie Allen. She's on this podcast on a regular basis. She owns a company called Airworks, but that woman is exceptional about building the proper boardroom. She says, I need only the
mm,
best people at the seat at my table. And man, she's good at it. She's good at bringing them on. She's also good at replacing them if they're not the best. She's phenomenal at it. She doesn't get attached to those
interesting.
relationships. She gets attached to the direct was in the results that seat is required to fill, which is incredible.
You said Stephanie Allen?
Stephanie Allen, Airworks. I'm gonna introduce you. I'm
I would
already
love
making a
that.
list of everybody I'm gonna introduce you to.
I would love that. That's something that I'm just kind of again stumbling forward. But if there's somebody that's done it well at a high level, I'm always interested to connect. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So who's a good candidate for we talked a little bit about size of revenue. You said the majority of the trades, but for those listeners that are here and you pique their interest and they're considering should I reach out or what's it look like to have just a strategy call with you or an engagement call? What's it feel like to reach out? And what's that first conversation feel like?
Yeah, so depends if you're exit curious or if you're actually know that you want to continue growing your business. I mean, either way, I try to funnel people to that weekly webinar. There's no sales call at the end of it. It's just truly
Nice.
information. And again, whether you want to sell now or if you think you might want to sell at some point, it gives you a ton of information and a flavor for what it's like to work with top line operators. Um, but if you know, like I've got gas in the tank, I'm profitable, and I'm ready to take action. Those are kind of the three requirements for working with me directly. Well, then let's have a conversation and get you going with the durability diagnostic. And again, that's a 90-minute intake conversation. I go back and crunch everything and come back with that prioritized roadmap that I share usually over like a 15 to 20-minute follow on. The funny thing is, many owners, thankfully, 100% have always showed up for the actual deliverable. But many of them say, like, even if we never met again, that just talking through this and spending 90 minutes thinking about my business at this level and you asking those questions, like, exposed a whole array of opportunities that I've never thought about in the decades that we've operated. So, um, that's the entry point into kind of the more coaching side of things where you know for sure you want to scale things significantly.
Yeah, I would encourage anybody, you guys, this is if you fit the mold, right? Those war room conversations, anytime you have an opportunity to have a conversation with someone who's going to make you critically think from a different perspective, take it. Like there's no better lunch date than that. I'll just say 90
Totally.
minutes you eat. So, right, go have lunch, sit down, get away from your business and put yourself in an environment where you can have those conversations, those different perspectives, they matter. The majority of us are looking through a window that's filled with magazine covers and newspapers, and those little blind spots that people have the ability to open up so you can see further are really important.
Mhm.
Right? That's the concept, is go as far as you can see and then bring someone in to help you see further so you can keep pushing, keep pushing. Which
Absolutely.
is we can't do that self-reflecting. Like it's not there. I value and challenge those relationships. I tend to surround myself with people who are critical of everything in a good way, but they ask challenging questions and it makes me think. I tend to ask a million questions, not because I'm debating or my own team will tell you. I will get on a call and I will have 300 questions and I'm not being argumentative. I'm not debating. I'm trying to see different perspectives and it requires you really having people that do that. And then I have people that I know if I pick up the phone, they're like, that's the best you've ever done. It's the best podcast you've ever done. I'm like, I appreciate that, but I want to
Yeah,
be challenged, right? And that's
indeed.
a critical skill to have. Yeah,
Feedback is such a gift and a gift that so few people um, give
intentionally.
frequently, but also in a way that is useful.
Mhm.
And so when you find those people like that, those are the people that I want on speed dial that recognize something and just tell me, right? They're not worried about massaging it. They're not worried about the time. Like, just tell me because like taking action as quickly and decisively as possible on an insight is where the big gains are realized.
Yeah, feedback without frustration.
Mhm.
Like, it doesn't have to feel good. It has to be there. Otherwise, we just are who we are, doing what we do, getting the same results every day. So, it's
So,
been wonderful having you on the show. What else would you like to leave our listeners with?
I think we've covered a tremendous breadth of topics. Again, for people that are going to want to join that webinar, I'll send over the link. And again, I'm in this because I want to help people. I want to help people thrive ultimately, personally and professionally. I've not been able to, kind of separate the two. They're very intertwined, especially for business owners, especially for entrepreneurs. And so, again, I don't have to. If there's a reasonable idea that you think I can help you, reach out, because if I'm not the right person, I'll tell you. If I can connect you to somebody that's going to be better able to support you, I'll do that. But I feel like the rising tide brings up all ships, and so there's people that are truly want to get better, truly are looking to elevate their performance, their company trajectory, their how they show up for their team. I'm all in for that.
Oh, I like your style, man. You got a good vibe to you. Different,
You draw it out of me, so thank you.
different, which I appreciate. I appreciate different. Yeah. Not typical. I'm literally sitting
It's
here thinking,
exhausting to try to protect every single kind of opportunity and things like that. Like, I'm constantly sending people, other searchers, hey, I looked at this business. It's not for me. Is this interesting to you? Because that actually fills my cup up.
hmm, I love it. I love it. I'm glad you reached out and really appreciate you taking time to be on the podcast today. How do they
Alcohol.
reach you outside of the webinar? You have any other contact information you want to throw out?
Yep. Top Line Operators is my company. You can find me at toplineops.com. And also, I am on Instagram. So I share everything on Instagram. And so if you want to know what it's like to work with me, talk with me, hang out with my team, we're all on there. So you can go to the David Hori on Instagram and find out more about what it's like to hang out with us.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for taking time. And for everybody that, thank you, Krista, for dropping that on there. You
Yeah,
guys can
thank
grab the
you.
link over there.
So
Love
appreciate it.
having you on the pod today. For all of you that are listening live on one of our social media channels, we appreciate you guys spending time with us today. Thank you for taking this brief moment to work on your business versus in your business. If you have any questions for David and his team, you guys reach out. You know how to reach him. I do hope that you guys put it on your schedule to attend one of his webinars. It's valuable information, right? Regardless of where you are, it's important to go into these things with eyes wide open. I would rather be educated and knowledgeable in advance of needing to be. I think that's been the topic is like, don't wait until you have to get here, right? Start planning for it in advance. It makes it a lot easier road when you know where you're headed. All right, you
Absolutely.
guys. David, thank you again. Krista, thank you for hosting everything from behind the scenes. And you guys, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, we appreciate you guys sharing, leaving feedback, and letting us know. If you have an interest in having David back on and you have some specific topics you want us to dig deeper into, feel free to leave that in the chat. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next podcast. Thanks again.
Thanks, Jennifer.